Hey, so I haven't made a video in a while, but I felt like this was a special occasion. Also, I think it would be best to address something kind of outside of the movie, but I think it's important anyway. If you didn't know the reason that Zack Snyder didn't finish Justice League back in 2017, it's because his daughter tragically died while he was transitioning from production to post-production. It was suicide, and he left the project to grieve with his family, and I 100% understand why. The reason I bring this up is because I know a lot of people struggle with that, and to paraphrase the film, you are not alone. Everybody goes through hardships, and there's always somebody out there for you to talk to. The suicide hotlines for Canada and the U.S. are on screen, and if you don't live in either of those countries, I know that you can find equivalents. There's always somebody to listen when you need it. Even before this version of the film was announced, there was a lot of charity work done by Zack himself and his fans, and I don't want that to go unnoticed. The film is dedicated to his daughter, Autumn, and I really hope that the extra awareness can help somebody out there. Now onto the video proper. Okay, as you may know, I've actually made a video about Zack Snyder before, and while I don't necessarily disagree with what I said in that video, I think I was a little bit too mean back then. Snyder is a filmmaker who likes to take risks. Take risks with these huge characters that mean a lot to a lot of people, including myself, and I don't think that all of them paid off, frankly, but I like to think that I can appreciate him as a filmmaker as time goes on. And his first film in this series, Man of Steel, didn't quite work for me, and it's because of the usual reasons that it don't work for people, like the pretty rampant destruction in the movie, which is just not what I want to see in a Superman movie, and the fact that he kills Zod. Like, everything in the movie makes sense, the reasons why Metropolis is destroyed and why Zod is killed, it's a logical conclusion for what has been set up, but what was set up is just not what interests me, and frankly, I think that's fine. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for a lot of people, but it was a pretty natural kind of, not necessarily conclusion, but I completely understand why WB decided to get Zack Snyder and David S. Goyer and Chris Nolan to produce, and everybody who was involved with that movie. I understand why they were, and I don't think it was a strange decision at all. I mean, the previous movies before that that are relevant to Man of Steel were Superman Returns, which didn't do as great as WB wanted, and the Dark Knight trilogy, which did fantastic. So, it makes sense that they would want to go in this direction with Superman, but it's just not a perfect movie. But yeah, if you enjoy it, then I am glad. Good for you. I wish I was you. But after Man of Steel came BVS. Hey, this is me from the future just saying that I have very complex feelings about this movie, and I could talk about it for days and days, but my feelings are somewhere in between these two other videos. They're both fantastic. One is by Cosmonaut Variety Hour.
So one of the things that Batman likes to do in this universe is use a fucking cattle iron to brand the villains like cows, so that when they go to jail, the other inmates know who they need to murder.
And one is by Loverboy.
Genuine attempt at understanding the director and the way they see that movie. Who are they? What story did they want to tell? What story do they believe they told? And how did they make it happen?
They're both fantastic. One is very positive, and one is pretty negative. So, I'm somewhere in between there. I don't like how Batman kills, but I also like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. So, it's a whole mess. But anyway, on to Justice League. Yeah, it's just, I've seen Batman v Superman recently, and I'm still not quite a fan. So that's why when this film was coming out, both the theatrical version and this version, Zack Snyder's version, I wasn't really looking forward to it in the way that I would hope I would for a Justice League movie, because it's the Justice League. They deserve the best of the best material, in general, and that includes films. And if you look at the theatrical cut, the best of the best was not it, okay? It makes sense why what happened to me. It's not a mystery. It's like, oh, why did WB do this? Why did they get Joss Whedon, who just came off of 2 Avengers movies, who have obvious parallels to the Justice League, and those movies were pretty good, at least Age of Ultron was pretty good, but the first Avengers was fantastic. So it seemed like a pretty obvious choice to have Joss Whedon come in to finish up Justice League, because obviously Zack couldn't. And as we know from this movie, from this version, Zack Snyder's version, is that it was 4 hours. So, they couldn't just wait for him to come back to the movie, or even just get somebody to oversee the editing. They needed somebody to do reshoots if they wanted a theatrical release, which obviously they did. That makes sense. So they got Joss Whedon, and then Joss Whedon just seemed like, I don't know what his deal was. I know that he wasn't super happy when he was making Age of Ultron, but like it's like he put in not necessarily no effort, but like anti-effort. It was like he was rooting for this movie to fail. It's so bizarre, because like I assume that Joss Whedon likes the Justice League. I know that he probably did it for the money, but even if you're gonna do it for the money, why do you cut out all this great material from Zack Snyder's version? I don't know if I've mentioned this, but Zack Snyder's Justice League, the one that just came out, it's really good, and I didn't expect that because of my feelings towards Batman v Superman and Man of Steel. But anyway, back to the theatrical cut. There's just like so much in that version that was added, and it's just so much worse than what was taken out. Some of it's fine. I don't know if that's a hot take, but there's this scene, if I recall correctly, where Batman was talking to Alfred, I believe, and it was like this lovely conversation that they had about Superman and how human he is, and I really, really like that, and it fits in with Zack Snyder's Justice League and the way that Batman talks about him, but it wasn't. It was Joss Whedon's footage. Let me just have a little moment, a little tangent about the aspect ratio, because it's 4:3, which you might associate with like really old movies from like the 50s, the 60s, stuff like the 50s, 40s, 60s, blah blah blah. Everything up until I believe it was the 60s when aspect ratio was widescreen was introduced. But anyway, you have 4:3 as it was back then, where it's like the smallest frame, and then you have 16:9, which is what most screens are that are wider than that. And if you're watching this on a monitor, it's probably 16:9. If it's an older one, then maybe it's 4:3, but it's probably 16:9. Most, or if not all, modern TVs are that aspect ratio. Anyway, it's 16:9, and then wider than that is 235:1, which is pretty common with movies. You'll see that kind of thing all the time. And then IMAX ratio, which is what Zack Snyder's Justice League is in, is taller than that. So it's the biggest frame. There's 2 different 4:3s. There's the smallest one besides 1:1, and then there is the biggest one, IMAX, which is what this whole movie is in. And I don't know if the whole movie was actually shot in IMAX, with IMAX cameras, or if the action and some of the exteriors were shot in IMAX, and then all the close-ups were cropped to look like that. I don't know, but the whole movie is 4:3, and I think it looks fantastic. I'm actually thinking about stealing it for this movie that I would like to make soon. Alright, so it's almost spoiler time, and there's a couple things that I have to say. I think I need to give out my recommendation first, because I think that you should watch this movie. Since it is so long, I would say kind of space it out throughout the day. You know, I think it's good to watch it in one day. I think if you spread it out over too long of a period of time, I don't think it'll work as well. But basically what I did is in like the morning when it came out on Thursday, I got up early and then I watched the first chapter. There's 6 chapters and an epilogue. And then I went to school and then I came back, watched another episode, or another chapter, took my dog for a walk, watched another chapter, did my dinner, and blah blah blah. So that's how I would recommend it. I mean, don't take a break in between the last chapter and the epilogue, because the epilogue is pretty short, and I think you'll kind of like just kind of lose the high of the climax, you know, because I think that with every movie, you know, you should watch the last act of a movie in one sitting. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this. I don't know if I would appreciate it as much if I watched it in one sitting, because I really can barely stand long movies. So you know, but that might just be me. If you can sit through it, then that's great. But I would recommend this movie. And now I'm going to go into spoilers, because there are actually things to spoil, which kind of surprised me, because I thought it was just going to be an extended version of what we got in theaters, but instead it's actually really different. Martian Manhunter. Yeah. Okay. We knew, if you've been keeping up with the Snyder Cut, we knew that Martian Manhunter was going to be in it, because Zack posted like this storyboard of Martian Manhunter, and he also posted storyboards of Darkseid, so we knew that both of them were going to be in the movie. So, you know, that wasn't a huge surprise, and I think that Darkseid is a little bit more well handled, you know, like he feels natural to the movie, when I think Martian Manhunter doesn't really. I think he just kind of, like, I know that was Zack's plan, so I'm glad that he's here, but I think, because he's revealed as a character from the previous movies who was pretty active in the story. He was like this military character, and now, oh, he's Martian Manhunter, but it just felt weird to me since he didn't do anything. You know, I think if Martian Manhunter just arrived on Earth, I'm not super familiar with Martian Manhunter, so I might be speaking nonsense, but it just felt weird. You know, it was just a little hard to get past the fact that he didn't do anything in the previous movies. And yeah, it just felt kind of tacky and weird, but he was fine. But Darkseid, though, yeah, he was a new character, not just completely not in the theatrical version, and I understand why he wasn't, you know, because since it was 2 hours, it didn't have that much time to kind of have him be around. He doesn't do much. He kind of he reminds me a lot of Thanos pre-Infinity War in the MCU, where he just kind of he's the boss. He's like over there, you know, and he shows up a couple times. He says a couple things. There's this really cool vision that Cyborg gets when they're resurrecting Superman, and you get scenes of Darkseid doing stuff. You see his Omega beams; those are cool. Yeah, so Darkseid has never really been my favorite character. You know, I don't know that much about him. He's not super interesting to me, but I see the appeal. So, you know, I didn't mind seeing him. He was cool. And Steppenwolf, the actual main villain of this movie, I thought was a lot better. You know, when I first saw his new design, I thought it was kind of just overly edgy, but now I think it's pretty good. You know, I mean, it's all just like one texture. You know, there's no like separate colors or anything, but that texture is blades, and the blades are cool. So, you know, I appreciate that, and he looks pretty good for most of the movie. You know, I think the scene where he goes to Themyscira, I think it looks a little wonky, but besides that, it's fine. So yeah, anyways, Steppenwolf, like, his design is better. I think he looked really ugly in the theatrical version, and he looked fake, you know, like, it was only a few months later that Infinity War came out, and Thanos looked amazing in that, so the comparison was just like really unfortunate. But now Steppenwolf is pretty close, I'd say. I think Thanos, since he looks a little bit more human, and I think I like Thanos more, but Steppenwolf isn't bad. You know, he was a lot better than I thought he would be in this movie, because I don't care about Steppenwolf, you know, and you know his reasons for doing what he's doing make more sense, right? Because even though he's still a genocidal, planet-destroying guy, it's not just that. He's trying to get good with Darkseid, because I guess he's just not not on his good side, I guess, or whatever. So that was neat. And that was interesting to see. And yeah, so Darkseid was cool, and most of the Justice League themselves as characters, I think, were greatly improved, especially the Flash and Cyborg, because Cyborg's backstory was like mostly just hinted at in the theatrical version, but here you really see it. There's like this scene which, while it doesn't really add anything, where he's playing football, because he's like the head of the football team or whatever, sports, it looks fantastic, you know, because Snyder's doing it, and Snyder's visuals have always been fantastic, and I will never say anything bad about his visuals, unless he changes his style to something less fantastical, but I don't think he will. So yeah, he shoots the hell out of that, and then there's this scene right after where he gets like there's this monologue that he hears from his dad, and it reminds me a lot of the first flight from Man of Steel, which is easily my favorite scene in that movie. And you do see him fly around for a moment, and his dad explains his powers, and there's this scene where he gives money to like this single mother. That was really, really cute, I guess. It was really nice, so I appreciated that. And then with the Flash, who also gets greatly improved. I think he gets more improved. His improvement is more in the later half of the movie, and the way he interacts with the Justice League. I think his setup is slightly improved. There's the scene with his dad, which I think was in theatrical, but I don't really remember. And it was lovely, and it pays off at the end, the scene with his dad. So that was good. And there's a scene with Iris where she doesn't say anything, but she's in like that car crash, and it was one of the earliest things that we heard about with the Snyder Cut. I think like animatics or whatever were released a long time ago. I could be wrong, but I distinctly remember seeing a unfinished version of that at some point, you know, and we finally see it, and it's fine. I guess I think it's a little creepy and awkward, you know, so I'm not a huge fan of that scene, but I guess it was cool to see. But at the end of the movie, both of those characters that I just mentioned, Cyborg and the Flash, they get this great payoff scene where basically the villains win, you know, and the mother boxes, they synchronize, and like the world explodes and the Justice League die. All of them are like vaporized, but the Flash has to like go back in time by like a few seconds, you know, by just running so fast, you know, classic Flash stuff. And you could see like the ground is like forming beneath his feet, and the music is going, and he's like having this monologue to himself about his dad, and it was fantastic. And then we have this scene with Cyborg where he says, like, I'm not broken, I'm not alone, to these like weird monster thingies inside the mother box. So like both of those characters get this great payoff in a couple minutes, and then they beat Steppenwolf, and Darkseid closes the boom tube, and that's it. I think Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Batman get improved to, you know, a degree, I guess. Especially Batman, because I really, really didn't like Batman in BVS or in theatrical. I think he was annoying in theatrical, and like just not it in BVS. But he is it in this movie. He's great, so that was cool. Wonder Woman, even though the theme is kind of overused a little bit, she gets like two motifs or leitmotifs or whatever, music, which blare all the time, but they're cool, so I don't really mind. And then Aquaman gets a little bit more reasoning as to why he joins the League, which was cool, you know, because of his relationship to Atlantis. I feel pretty neutral towards Aquaman, like in general as a character. I'm not like one of those people who thinks that he's like inherently dumb or anything, and I haven't seen his movie. It's the only DCEU movie that I haven't seen, so sue me. But yeah, he was fine. Jason Momoa does a great job as Aquaman, so you know, I feel kind of indifferent to him. But I gotta say, I wasn't a huge fan of Superman in this movie, you know, because he's supposed to be like this beacon of hope, you know, and that's like his whole point in this movie especially. And then he comes in the black costume, and it seems like it's just because that's what he wore when he was resurrected in the comics. I just, like, it didn't really seem to fit. Also, his color scheme fits Batman, so when they're standing next to each other in that lineup, they kind of meld together visually. Also, you know, when he shows up, he's alive, he hangs out with Lois and his mom, which was nice. I like that scene. And then he goes and beats the hell out of Steppenwolf. Like, it's brutal, and it's like the same kind of feeling that I had towards Man of Steel, where it's just like it's kind of off-putting and like mean-spirited. And then Superman, the beacon of hope in this universe, shows up and breaks his head open. It was kind of sickening, honestly. So, yeah, I mean, the black suit looks cool, but so does the regular one, and I kind of wish that it was that one. So that was one of the only things that I prefer in Justice League. But yeah, the real winner here is obviously Zack Snyder, because it's clearly a boost to his career. He got to actually make what he wanted to make, and it's completely uncut, you know. I don't think it needs to be 4 hours, but I'm glad that it is, because the whole point of releasing it is that we see everything, you know. We're not here to see what he would have released in theaters. We're here to see what he wants to make. And so Zack Snyder's Justice League is a very fitting title, you know. It's in the aspect ratio that he wants. It's the length that he wants. It's the tone that he wants, you know, and it fulfills the arcs of all the characters. It doesn't completely fulfill the arcs because he wanted to make those extra movies, and I think that's why he included Martian Manhunter in this version, which I don't know if he was able to shoot back in 2017. He clearly didn't shoot the last scene with Batman and Martian Manhunter, because you can tell by how Ben Affleck looks that it's like 2020 Ben Affleck, not 2016 Ben Affleck. And then the scene right before that, the nightmare sequence, which was really played up in the marketing, I felt kind of, you know. I mean, that's mostly because I can't stand Jared Leto's Joker. You know, sue me if you want, but he's so annoying, and I hate him. I honestly hope that Zack makes another one of these, and this is kind of a weird take for me, but I hope Batman murders him because I can't stand him. He's so annoying. If you like him, that's great. Good for you. I wish I was you. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much all I have to say is that, I'm impressed, I mean, good for Zack. He has another movie coming out on Netflix in a couple months. I think in May or June or whatever. And it's another zombie movie, and I liked his Dawn of the Dead remake, which was his first movie. So I'm excited to see that. And I hope that he gets to make another one of these. I hope that he makes whatever he wants. So, yeah. So, congratulations to everybody involved. I'm glad that this was basically a big dub for everybody who wasn't Joss Whedon.